Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us live for the Q&A sessions with Michael Kimber around teaching for the first time using Microsoft Teams and setting it up. Michael has been part of the Science Learning Partnership since its formation in 2018, as well as also being a STEM ambassador, a Flipgrid innovator, and an Explorify champion. And he's obviously been teaching in school using Teams predominantly for the last 4 or 5 years. So he's really geared up and knowing everything he needs to know about Teams. He's basically second nature for him now. I'll hand over to Michael now, who will then start to explain a bit of a live demo on Teams before opening up for a Q&A. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A chat at the side.
Okay, well, thank you, Dale. I'm really looking forward to this, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning. I hope you've had a good day so far. I don't know if you've listened to any of the other sessions, but they've been pretty good from what I've heard. So I want to go through the real nuts and bolts of setting up a class team for the very first time. Now, I don't know who we've got on today. Maybe you are brand new to all of this. Maybe you've been doing it for a while and just want a few hints and tips for how to use it the best you can. But what I really want to do is make this a very interactive session. So please do ask questions as we go through. I'm going to give a very sort of quick basic demo of how to set one up, and then as people have asked questions, we can go into a bit more depth over certain features. But I really want to just make sure this is useful for you as a bit of a starting point. So we're not going to go through the whole of Teams today, but just really the basics of setting up your first Microsoft class team. So I'm going to share my screen with you and give you a very live demo as we go through. So here we are. I'm going to use the online version of Teams today. Now you can use it online or in the or an app as well. I would recommend the app, but because we are running a live event on the app, I thought it was just a bit safer to do it online for you today, but you'll get very much the same experience depending on wherever you use it. But I would recommend the app for a bit more stability usually. So Microsoft Teams can be found within the waffle up here in your Office 365 tenant. And as you can see, that you can have Teams for all sorts of different things. Now, because my role is I do a lot of things that Dale has just mentioned there. I do the Devon Science Learning Partnership and a lot of sort of teacher training things. You might see that my teams are a little bit more geared towards that sort of thing. I've got some marketing type things here, but we've also got class teams. I've got our year 6 team there because I'm working with a year 6 pod at the moment. And down at the bottom, I can actually see some hidden teams that are ones that I don't use so much, but actually are still relevant to me. So there's all sorts here. I've actually got teams for other schools in our trust as well. So if I scroll right down to the bottom, there we are, we've got our Yo Valley and West Clist school teams there as well. So there's a whole host of different things. Some of these are for children and for us to work with children. Some of them are for extracurricular activities. Some are very much for the staff. Some are for certain members of the staff. There's even things around finance here that we're using our teams for. So it's a really all-encompassing, quite powerful program. So the first thing you're going to want to do in Teams is go obviously to join or create a team. And here we're going to make a class team. Now there are some different versions of teams that you can make, and they'll be set up slightly differently so that the people that are joining them might have slightly different permissions, or there might be just some different processes that Teams goes through as it creates it. But here we'll go to our class team to start with. Now I'm going to name this team the EdTech Festival Demo Team. And this is useful because I'm going to demonstrate some other things in another session tomorrow, so I'm going to set this up for that. Now then, you might want to put a description in here. I suppose when you get to this stage, this is the first big decision for you. If you've already set your heart that you're going to create some class teams, you need to decide actually who is involved in this team. So for us, it's quite simple. We just set a team up for every year group. So we'll have reception class, year 1, year 2, etc. When you get to secondary and FE, potentially it gets a little bit more tricky. You could set them up for sort of tutor groups, things like that. But a lot of the time, a lot of the secondary schools that I've seen have set them up by classes. So potentially Mr. Kimber's science class at this particular time in the week. You might need to be a bit more specific around who's in each team, and you might end up with a few more teams in order to cater for that wider, more diverse audience there. But here for my primary school, or actually in this instance, just you folks that are listening to the call, I'm going to set up this team, very generic EdTech Festival demo team. So I click next here, and it's now creating the bare bones of that team. At this stage, you can now start to decide, okay, who do I want in this team? And you can add students and teachers. Now, students and teachers have different levels of permissions, which we can get into as we go through. Most particularly, teachers can do more editing and post things that potentially students can't, and potentially your tech team, and if you've got organizations supporting with your wider team's strategy, you can actually set specific settings for students and maybe block certain features for them. So it is important to differentiate where you can. So here I'm just going to add some colleagues in this instance. So Dale's here, I'm going to add him as one of my students. I'm going to add a couple more from our staff here as my students. Let's go for, there we are. So I've just got 4 students there and a couple of teachers I might add. And there we are. So it doesn't really matter in this instance, but you do need to consider actually making sure there's a differentiation there. So I've added those. Looks like they've gone in fine, a lot quicker than I expected. And you do need to make sure actually that you add in both instances there, and just double check you've got everyone you want. Now, if you accidentally add someone that shouldn't be there, just click the little X and it will delete them out of the team. So I can close this and my team is now here. As you can see, there's not very much that's exciting to look at yet, but we've got a few things that are worth mentioning. So across the top here, we've got our posts. Now, within posts, it's very much like a social media platform almost, where you can just post updates throughout the day or big events. So I might just say hello. Oh, say hello to everyone. And then as long as I've got my settings right, the students could start to reply to this. And one thing we do always pick people up on is making sure that they click the reply there, rather than the very tempting thing, which is to just start a new conversation here, which then creates a new post, which can become a little bit confusing. So do make sure people are replying. So that's very much a sort of basic thing there. You can, as you can see, you can add a few different tools in there as you go. And one thing I like to do is within this text formatting, we can actually change it from a conversation to announcements, which can be a little bit more striking, I suppose. Work due. We can add subheadings, maths, please hand in your maths tomorrow. Now, I don't want to go into too many different sort of advanced features almost, but we can start to set who can reply to that. We can post in a few different channels as well. Now, I've actually only got one channel at the moment, but I can start to post into different teams as well, which can be quite efficient. If you've got perhaps you're a DT teacher and you've got a whole host of different DT classes you teach, and you might want to give them all the same announcement, then that's a really powerful way of making that a lot more efficient. So again, I can just post that. I could change the image there or whatever, but there we go. So some simple posts. Another really powerful feature is the files. Now, I love using files on Teams, and when we're working collaboratively on files now in our organization across our trust, we'll almost always start to store them here on Teams. So we can pop class materials in there, which is a sort of default one. You can lock folders in here so that students can't access or potentially edit them in there, but it's very easy to add things. You just go up here, you can add new documents, you can add a new folder, resources. That's the fairly well overlapping with class materials really, isn't it? But there we go. And within resources, I can start to add files, you can upload files, you can sync this. Now that's quite powerful. So that will sync it to your local file storage on your computer so that you can just edit them online. You don't have to navigate through all the teams, and it will upload the changes as you go. You can copy links to it as well. So if you want someone else to edit this, then you can. And one of my favorite things about this is the real-time collaboration that this enables. So if there's a Word document in here, I can just create one quickly if I want to. Test. It's all very exciting, the things I'm making, aren't they? So I can make a test document. And the really powerful thing with this is that I can edit it here in Teams or download it onto my Word document app itself. But someone else can be doing that at exactly the same time. And so we can collaborate live on this. Now, for the EdTech Festival, we've got over 100 sessions. There was a huge amount of admin and all sorts going into it. And so it was so invaluable that we could all work on the same copy of documents at the same time and make updates and agree changes and things like that. And that works for students as well, actually, where we ask them to work in groups or potentially look at a central document. Suddenly being able to work at the same time is really empowering. So I'm going to head back here to the team. And I'm going to move across now to the class notebook. Now, this is almost has been our bread and butter across the trust for a few years now, but increasingly so, it's becoming something that we are embedding into Teams. So this is really lovely. If you go to the class notebook, you can set up a class notebook there. I'm going to create a new blank notebook, which will auto generate with some of these sections. Now, the collaboration space is somewhere that everyone can contribute to and edit at the same time. Possibly if you're looking for collaborative inking and things like that, you might want to look at whiteboard or potentially the file storage here, because you can get conflicts if people are all editing the same OneNote pages at the same time. But it's quite nice if you want to build things gradually, maybe make word banks or something that students contribute to. It's quite a nice one. The content library, we call this the teacher's notes section, which is where students can't edit, but they can see everything. So we put all of our lessons in there. And then student notebooks, that's where students can edit everything. And we put the work that we want them to actually interact with in there. So if I click next, it then asks me about the student's area and what aspects, what sections I want within that. Now, I might decide, no, I don't want handouts. I'd actually like my project, etc. You can put whatever you want in there, add other sections, a random section there. Probably not a great thing to put in, but there we go. And then I can create it. Now, this can take a few minutes. So I'm going to pause and just see if there has been any questions about anything we've talked about so far.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, we've got a couple of questions coming in. Some about the early setup of Teams, and they're asking around, is there a quicker way to add a bulk amount of people? So we saw you add me and a few others, but is there a quicker way to add more students at once?
There is, in the sense that we work with external organizations that potentially people can put you in touch with if you contact us. You can get external organizations who will run it. So we use Sims at the moment, which is where we store all of our pupil data, and they will write code basically that will take all of that data and import it when a new student's added into a team. If you're doing it just as a class teacher, it can take a little while. There's not necessarily a quicker way of doing it. If you've got a list of the students and you've got their emails, you can kind of copy and paste that all in. But unless you're using an external organization, there's not particularly a quicker way. Hopefully that helps.
And what, yeah, it probably has answered it. And what you've sort of started discussing at the end leads us into the next couple of questions nicely, which is some people asking if children have to be added to Teams first so they can use it as a student and be added, and sort of twinning with that, do pupils need to have Microsoft Office 365 accounts or just an email account?
Okay, so sorry, Dale, could you just remind me of the first question again there? Sorry.
Sorry, I gave you it once, yeah. The first one was to add children onto Teams. Do they need to be added onto Teams first so that you can have them as students within Teams, or does an Office 365 account work for them? Okay,
so you can be part of a team if you haven't got an Office 365 account. So for example, we've added all of our speakers on this event as guests to a team just to kind of help coordinate things. The problem is if you haven't got an Office 365 account, you have to be added as a guest which is a slightly different thing to being a student or an owner in a team, and you do get less sort of power, less permissions. So if at all possible, and really to make this work seamlessly and well, you do need to have them really with their own accounts, which is what we've done, and it works really nicely. You don't have to individually add them to teams as a whole. Any student, I can find anyone on here, and as long as they've got that Office 365 account, I can just add them as a student, as I did. You don't need to add them specifically to teams if they've got that account. Okay, hopefully that helps. So what we've got now, I'll move on, but we will absolutely come back to questions as I go, is this class notebook. Now, this is more about teams than OneNote, but I just wanted to show you. This is the class notebook, which is a OneNote notebook. And you can now see that my students here, the 4 people I added, now have their own areas in here. So if I go into Anthony Lee's, he's got those sections I created. Crucially, Anthony can see himself, the content library, and the collaboration space. He cannot see these other students. So that's really important, because you can have those extra bits where other students can't see what's going on there. So that's useful. And I've got these other sections here. What we do within the content library, we actually call it the teacher's notes, and we can create sections within there. You can create pages. Oh, there we are, new sections. I might call that autumn. And we actually do this chronologically. So we make a new section for each term, and then within there we have each week and then each day. And so students can actually look through and go, okay, what are we doing on, what did we do on the 24th of June? And they can go and actually see the pages for that day. You can create pages going down through, and we might have a maths one and then other resources for maths and so on. So that's really, really useful. I'll move on from OneNote because it's not necessarily the agenda for this one, but I will come back to that if there's any other questions. So another useful tool is assignments. Assignments is incredibly useful. We absolutely love it. It's something that we've adopted relatively recently, really, but it is a real time saver if you're a teacher. So we can get started and create an assignment. Now, there's 2 different things. We can make a quiz, which is very much sort of, you can put a Microsoft form in there, and students sort of have yes or no type answers, if you see what I mean, so they can, did I get that one right, yes or no. Assignments might be a longer project where they're handing in a longer thing. So let's look at an assignment quickly. There we are, and as with everything, we can give it a title, add more detailed instructions. Very good instructions here from me. And we can give it a point value if we want to, which can be useful going forward. I'm just going to say it's out of 10 points. And a rubric. Now, rubrics are really powerful. I'll just show you a demonstration rubric, one that I've made before here. So that's useful as well. If you've created rubrics for others, then you can use the same ones for new assignments. So I'll just use that one. And so a rubric enables the students to see what's expected of them and enables you to mark much more quickly. So here, some students were doing some market research around some different products, and we gave them expectations around the sample group of people they were surveying. So if they did excellently, they asked 30+ people. If they did a good effort, they just sort of asked 10 people, or it could be better if they didn't ask very many. We could ask them, sort of grade them on the questions they were asking and the presentation of their findings. So I can attach that. And now, when this assignment goes to the students, they can look at that rubric and go, okay, how do I do this well? And it gets really powerful when it comes to marking their work, because they'll hand it in on here, and then that rubric will appear for each assignment, and you can just sort of tick the different bits that you feel they've met, which is a massive time saver. I can add due dates, things like that, and there's sort of extra settings that you can go into if you want to. But as a very sort of brief overview, that is how that will work, and then we can assign it. While that's loading, are there any other questions, Dale?
Yeah, there's a few in there. Another one we've had was, because they can see the students and teachers appearing automatically in terms of your role, they're wondering if this is an educational package or if this is the standard package of Teams that we're demoing. That's
a very good question. I think this is the educational package, and we might have to get back to you on that one. I'm afraid I'm less familiar with the sort of top level on that. Okay, I think my bandwidth is playing a bit of an issue with playing a bit of an annoying game there, so it's had a bit of an error, but try again. There we go. Okay, so normally I think if I was using the app and wasn't on a call, that would be fine. And then it will add all of that into the grades section. So yes, I think this is Teams for Education, but it's worth just double checking because I'm not sure whether it will appear differently. Sorry, that's not a very good answer. Any others, Dale?
Yeah, there's another one about children making their own chats, and they're wondering if it's
Yep.
a way of preventing children from making their own chats, but still enable them to reply to a teacher on a chat page.
Sure, yes. So again, this isn't something maybe that a class teacher would do. The organisation that we work with that helps to manage the top level of this does have power, and your sort of tech team, if that sort of is relevant to you, does have the power to stop the chat completely. We actually decide not to do that. We feel it's better to help children to see the limitations, try to help them understand expectation as well. But that's again a choice that your school can make. What we found is a lot more helpful is allowing them almost to have, I say free reign, but have a lot of power, a lot of ability to do as much as they can. And then when they cross those lines, we make those expectations clear. But yes, you can switch things off, but as a class teacher, it's probably not something that you'd be able to do. Okay, any more?
Super, thank you. Yeah, I've got still a few more to go through. Yep. I should have been deleting these as I'm doing them to keep track. Next one was, can the class notebook be deleted once you've created it? So if you've made one, is it possible to delete it?
Yes. Now, I've never done that, so I will have to just double check, but you absolutely can get rid of it. The nice thing with it is that it's very customizable. So if there was some issue with it, you can definitely delete everything within it. I believe you can go through and delete it, though I've not done that, so I'm not going to try and demo it because it will take me a while to work it out. But yes, you can. The nice thing as well is that with a class notebook, once you've added a new student to a team, they'll automatically be added as a student in that class notebook. So if there's concerns around, but it's becoming out of date because I've got all these new students, it won't do because they'll be added as you add them to the team. Okay, just one thing before I go to proper questions all the way through. Within this conversation area, there's a few things that you can do. So you can add different apps to here, and as you can see, we've got Wikipedia. There's a whole host of different things. I'll click more apps and it will show me a whole list. There's lots here that I have no idea what it is. Perhaps they're things that you use. You can see there's a whole load of different options here. We can use SurveyMonkey. If you allow YouTube in your school, you can embed YouTube there, and that's really, really helpful because it enables you to embed a huge amount into these different posts. So here I've got a little one called Polly, or forms there, or we use ClickView, and I know there's sessions around ClickView, and I can start embedding these things in my post. So this one does a quick form, which I can do a quick question, hopefully, if my internet decides it's going to work. Okay, there we are. What is your favorite? And I can just put chocolate or bananas. Apologies, folks, that very random ideas here. And then I can just send that really quick one. And then everyone in my class can see that and vote on that immediately there. So there's a few things in this chat that you can embed. You can also add other apps here, which are sort of bigger things. And you can add apps up here as well. Again, things that you might want a larger section for. So I won't go through that too much, but a class team saves a huge amount of time. It's really, really efficient. And we found, as we've been teaching children remotely, that it's made a hugely more interconnected environment. It's kept our school community going, and it's saved the teachers a huge amount of time. We've all been very busy, but I think we're all very thankful that Teams has ironed out a lot of that for us. So I'm done with the demo I was planning to do. So I'll go over to questions for the next sort of 10-15 minutes if needed, and yeah, and I can demo what we can. Thanks, Dale.
That's all right, Mike. So another question here is around reusing quizzes across the department. So they're saying that they realise they can obviously save and copy the quiz for other people to be able to use.
Yeah.
However, if they leave the school, can the master quiz be edited still by the school if the person leaving was the owner?
That's a very good question. I believe so. So I can't demonstrate it too easily here, but when an assignment is assigned within one class, it stays here in assigned. You can also have it in the marked section, and any teacher in that class can go in and edit it and copy it and use it. So absolutely, if a particular teacher leaves, then that assignment will stay there and you can still sort of make use of that and use it as a template. So yeah.
Super, thanks. Also, is there a way that students can see assignments across all their teams? So if they're members of lots of different teams, is there a way for them to see all those assignments?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's hard for me to give you a student view as such, but over here, there's sort of the top level elements of teams. So there's an activity notification section, there's the chat, there's the actual teams. So if you click there, then you see your teams. Then there's the assignments button, and all of the students will have this. Now below here, I've got all sorts of class teams there, but the students will just see the teams that they are part of. So, you know, a year 6 might have our year 6 one, of course, but they might have some of the extracurricular ones. Again, if you're in a secondary school, a student will probably be part of a wider range of teams, and they'll see all of those there. So if I go into year 6 here, then I can see everything that has been assigned within that team. I can see the ones that have been marked. And the student will see everything within that team that they have been assigned. So yes, they can see everything without having to go too far.
Super. Somebody asked, and I've answered it on here, but there's a follow-up question around whether we use the class notebook for every lesson in the day, and does it save automatically elsewhere for the teacher to support their workload? And I've sort of suggested that as a school, as a trust, we all use the class notebook to plan, to teach and deliver our lessons from as a way of collaborating. And they've asked a follow-up question of, in terms of a monitoring perspective, is there a way to view content from across different teams quickly? For example, if is all English planning for a specific week and they wanted to see everyone's English planning, is there a quick way to do that?
The way that we have set it up is that each year group would have their own sort of separate area on one, as in they'd have their own separate OneNotes. So all of the teachers across our trust would have access to a Key Stage 2 planning team or a Key Stage 1 planning team, etc. So a lot of the planning goes on in there within a OneNote area there. So what would typically happen is potentially Dale, he works in year 4, he'd be working with the other year 4 teachers across our trust. They'd plan together, and we sort of deliver mostly the same lessons across our trust at the moment. So they plan together within a OneNote there and then copy those pages out onto their particular OneNotes for their classes. So I don't know if that exactly answers the question, but we would do our original planning in a fairly central place for each key stage and then move it out from there. For us as a primary school, we don't put all of our English planning in one place because you don't want to start having too much duplication of things, and it's a bit more efficient to do it in key stages rather than by subject for us. But if you were in an English department, I would say it might be a good idea to do a central English planning staff team with a OneNote and then copy things from that OneNote into your class team. Okay.
Super, thank you, Michael. In class, is the class notebook visible through the SharePoint? Is the next question.
Yes, absolutely. So what I can do, we can go up here to OneNote. Now, I'm not sure how long this will take, but within SharePoint there, sorry, I did that a bit quickly, up there in the waffle, you can click the OneNote app. And then if and when it loads, I can now see here, I say now, I will be able to see all of my OneNote notebooks open, and hopefully that new one should appear there somewhere.
You've just got a lot of notebooks, haven't you?
I have. I've got far too many. There we go. So it's because it's a recent one. It's there. It's brand new. It's at the front of my list, the top of my list of notebooks that I can use. And then within SharePoint, here we are. I'm glad I haven't put too much content in it because it will just take a little bit longer to load. Again, with this, You can do everything here in the browser. I do recommend trying to use the apps as much as possible. It is just a lot quicker. Every time you want to open a notebook online, it's got to load up the whole thing. Whereas if you've got it syncing to your device, it just is so much quicker. So there we are within OneNote, and within SharePoint, I've got this again, and I can open it in the app if I want to. I won't do that now because it will just take a while to load. But there we are. Thank you.
Is there an app similar to using the interactive whiteboard?
Yes, so there is an app. It's not within SharePoint, but it's called Whiteboard itself. It's not called Whiteboard itself, it's called Whiteboard, and you can get it from the Microsoft Store, and that's very, very collaborative. It enables several people to be inking at the same time. Yeah, it's really, really powerful, really good. There's some great features as well. So if you draw freehand like a little table, it will automatically convert it into a table and all sorts. So yes, Whiteboard is the name of the app, and it's a Microsoft app which can be embedded into OneNote and all sorts. So yeah.
Somebody's asking if you could briefly demo the use of channels.
Yes. Oh yes. Sorry. Do you know what? I was absolutely going to do that and totally slipped my mind. Here we go. So I've got a general channel here. Thank you, whoever asked that question. Very remiss of me to miss that. So here's my general channel. Now within Teams, you can have a series of channels, and you can look at that almost as a bit of a directory of the different areas that you might be covering within a class or a lesson. So you might want to have different channels for different subjects. You might want to have different channels for different projects. It really does depend on what you're doing. So it's very easy to make new channels. Here with this ellipsis, there's a huge amount you can do. So I can add a channel here. And really, again, anything you want. I might just make a maths channel there. Now, one powerful thing here is privacy. Standard just means everyone can get to it. Private means that you can let certain people see it. So that's quite useful. If you've got a particular small group of children that you want working on a particular thing within Teams, you can let only them see in there, and probably the other teachers as well. And this is quite useful as well, automatically show it. Otherwise it comes up as hidden and people have to sort of manually do it. So I like to click that. So here's a channel. Now, again, this channel has slightly less at the moment than the general channel. You can see that assignments and things generally sit in the general channel. But up here at the top, we can still add lots of things. It's really got mostly the same functionality as that general channel, and you can have separate conversations here as well. So that's that side of the channels. Again, really the same features, but it's just a different area for a different conversation. If you use them well, it's really, really useful. One other thing I just want to add that I've just spotted, and I quite like, it's quite a new feature, is within a team you can manage tags. So if I want to talk to a specific person, I can @ them. So I'll just @ Dale here. Dale, please hand in your work. A bit pushy as a teacher, seems. But actually, if you want to tag everyone, you can tag a channel or a team. So I could tag the EdTech demo team. So that's going to tag everyone in this thing. And that means they'll get a notification. It will ping at them, tell them, hey, there's something that someone wants to tell you. You can tag a channel. So there, everyone that's in the maths channel will see that. Now, at the moment, it's the same people. The final thing you can do is add your custom tags. So I can manage tags here. I can create a tag. And so group 1 might be my name, and I might just add certain people to it. So I might add Dale, and I might add Beth to this. And so now I can just get off there. I can now tag that as well, group 1. So if I've got a particular group of children I want to talk to, I can do that. And that's really useful. And within assignments as well, I didn't actually mention, you can assign to certain groups of children as well, and specific children. So yeah, sorry, bit of a tangent there, but channels are good.
Super, thanks. Somebody's asking a question around whether we have a session for OneNote coming up over the next couple of days, and I've had a bit of a look, and I couldn't see a OneNote session coming up.
No, I did. Off the top of my head, I don't think we do, but we do run regular sort of EdTech demonstrator events, and OneNote is often the topic there. I don't know whoever posted that. Maybe if you could post your email address, we could probably get in touch with you about when the next one of those will be. It will probably be after the summer, but we might be able to get access to a recording of one for you.
And somebody's asking a question around, when you're sharing your screen, does the video of you show as well?
It can do, absolutely. So at the moment, I've just minimized that because it would just be distracting, seeing me twice. But yes, absolutely. If you're sharing your screen within a call, a Teams call, then you can sort of turn your video on or off depending on how you want to do it, really.
And a final question for the moment, anyway, was somebody saying that they love the Insights app that they use to track the individual classes through Teams. But as a leader, is there an app or settings similar so they can view the insights for the entire department or whole school teams, perhaps? Sort of similar to the showing my homework on the weekly report.
Yeah, it depends a little bit on what you're trying to see. Personally, I've not used Insights hugely, so I'd struggle to give you a good recommendation. I don't want to sort of blag something, but we use things like Planner, which I've got here down the side, which is a tasks tool, and I'm doing a bit of a session on that tomorrow, where you can see how people are completing things and what's going on. As a school leader, I'm not aware personally of a way of tracking what staff are doing as such within this. I'm not sure that there is a way, but there might well be. That's sort of above my knowledge. So apologies, there's not a great answer to that one. Is that the last question there, Dale?
No, there's still a couple more that I've going.
Good. Keep them coming.
Yeah, I'll keep them going as they're coming. Somebody's asking sort of around the video sharing again, but when you turn your video off, obviously the little circle of you appears. Is there a way to remove that from the screen when you are sharing?
Okay, so that's a very good question. I don't think that it needs to stay there. If you're on a call, I was going to click calls there, but it's not very helpful. If people are wanting to see your PowerPoint slides or whatever it is, they can, I'm trying to think if it's left click or right click, and pin it, which means that nothing else will show at all. So if you've got your big PowerPoint that you're sharing, you might have your little initials down in the side, but if people pin that, then that is definitely a solution. I don't know if it's necessarily the best solution, but sort of that's what I've encouraged people to do if they're struggling to see. The other side is you can make yourself a presenter on a call rather than a participant. I think that's the right terminology. And then you have a bit more power and other people can't show their screens, which again enables you to kind of keep the focus there.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, that makes sense. Another question is asking about the cost of setting up Teams for primary school. I've suggested that maybe we wouldn't know the exact answer and we might have to get back.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that one. I know that things have been a little bit, I think things have been free over the lockdown, haven't they, possibly? I wouldn't want to give you an answer to that one because I just don't know. Again, if you pop your email address in the Q&A, then I'm sure someone that's been dealing with that business side of things can get back to you.
Thanks. And would you say that Microsoft Teams is suitable for Key Stage 1?
Absolutely, yes. We use it in our early years as well. Of course, the experience is going to be a bit different. During lockdown, we've been running live lessons to our whole school from pretty much from the nursery up to year 6. Now, of course, at home, when we're talking to Key Stage 1, particularly lower Key Stage 1, we're talking to the parents as well. But we do use Teams to a degree with Key Stage 1 children. Of course, they're not going to navigate quite so much, but they do pick things up. What we found as staff is that actually often the barrier to adopting this is the staff more than the teachers, more than the students. They do pick it up really, really quickly. Our students are really, really fluid with it. And I'd say certainly when you're getting to year 2, they do start to really pick this up quite well.
Yeah, thank you. Somebody's asking if there's a breakout function, a bit like on Zoom, and so children can actually get on with their group work a little bit better.
Sure. So the answer to that is no, but I believe it's coming in August. So if you're looking to set this up for September, it is coming soon. Quick answer there.
Super, thanks. There's no more questions at the moment.
Okay, well, I think that is pretty much the end. So thank you everyone for joining. I am going to quickly share my email address there at the bottom. I've popped a few other useful websites. So the top link there is to the Microsoft Educator community. There's lots of quick little training episodes that you can do there, little online courses, and they're really, really useful no matter how experienced you are with this. If you're brand new, there's stuff for you there. If you've been using the Microsoft suite for a while, there's stuff for you there. Our approach is all there on the second link. We set this up actually for parents, but if you want to have a look on and see what we've been doing, we've got some help guides there for parents actually to adopt and pick up this when it went home. And then my email address is there at the bottom. So if you've got any queries, if you want any further information, I did ask people to post their emails in the chat, but feel free just to email me if you want to, and I can forward those things I can't answer onto the right person. So thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, hopefully that was useful.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. That was really insightful.